Riggsy here, and here we are in Hamilton, New Zealand, and I've managed to track down one of the originals of the New Zealand Mazda Rotary car scene. A real pioneer, who's been in the game since the 90s, responsible for encapsulating many young enthusiasts back in the day with his famous RX-3 coupe plated as UWANIT. As a young fella, if you had a poster of this car on your bedroom wall, then you'd clearly been bitten by the Rotary bug. 24 years later, here we are. I have the pleasure of sitting down with a Kiwi icon, Tim Wood. Welcome to the podcast, mate.
Thanks, RC. Yeah, thanks for talking to me.
Yeah, man. Thanks very much for coming on. The Kiwi boys will be getting the popcorn out right about now, I think.
I'm not sure about that.
Right. Yeah. No, you've been around the scene for a long time, and I'm sure a lot of people are pumped to see this podcast. So, just give us a bit of a background, man. Where did it all start for you?
As a kid, in terms of rotors, I was 15 years old. That's when you got your driver's license back in there. I've always been a car guy when I grew up as a young fella, and I always wanted an Escort. That was the car I wanted, and
like Mark 1, Mark 2,
Mark 2, and I had a Mark 2 1600 Sport Escort, which as a 15-year-old that was pretty cool, and it got stolen on my 16th birthday.
Right. Is it two-door, four-door?
Two-door,
genuine
1600 Sport. So I got stolen anyway. I got some insurance money, $1,500 back in those days. This is 1992, and I happened to be at a car show with my father. Took me to a car show in Auckland, and the Mazda Rotary Enthusiast Club had a display there.
Oh yeah.
And Bad RX.
Yes,
which is an iconic Kiwi car, and we'll talk about that car. That was there, and I didn't know what a Rotary was, and I saw this car, and I was just blown away. And the Rotary engine, and that was it.
The sound.
Yeah,
that's the sound that gets most people late.
I had to have one, and I had my $1,500 insurance money, and I was still going to school at this stage, so I was still a school kid, and so. On the school bus one day, heading into school, and here's this RX-2 parked on the side of the road, for sale, $1,800.
$1,800. So, warrant and reg too? Or
yeah. 13B, 5-speed.
Oh shit, yeah.
So anyway, got the old man to take me back there after school, and we bought this thing. I think we got it for $1,500 because that's all.
So the first Rotor was an RX-2.
RX-2
sedan,
coupe, Series 3 coupe.
Oh yeah, dog bone tail lights.
Yeah. 13B, RX-5 5-speed.
Oh yeah.
That was it.
Bet
19. Yeah. The rest is all history. Yeah. So I had lots of fun in that car, and then as you do, you tidy them up and you sell them, and
move them.
You move on to the next one. And
so what year are we talking here?
This is late 92, early 93.
Oh yeah. Going
so
back,
long time ago. And the scene was much different then. You could buy a Rotary on the side of the road with a for sale sign on it.
And everyone was probably buying the RX-7s too, at that point. Like they're only 6-7 years old.
The RX-7s were a lot more expensive than anything else back then. So RX-3s and 2s and 4s were relatively cheap to buy. So that's where it all started for me. And I think I've, with the current cars I've got, I'm well over 45. Rotaries that I've owned in that time.
Since 92?
Since 92.
Wow.
So, and I've never really wavered, I've just been passionate about them.
Yeah.
And I had a period where I didn't own one. It was
a depressing
period in my life, and but I rectified that, and But no, it's just one of those things, you know, you have a passion for it. And
Oh, I know. We know. The viewers would understand.
Yeah. And my mates say to me, you know, I'm 47 now, and my mates say, man, when are you going to get out of this phase?
I get that question all the time too, eh?
And I'm like, nah, it's not happening.
Because like back in the early 2000s and that, everyone was into them.
Yes.
And you could get them for a box of beer and a skateboard. You
Yes.
could do a swap, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And then around like 2000 and maybe 8 or 10, there was a big change in pricing and stuff like that. And then that kind of cut half people out. And
Yes.
then the real purists like yourself just carried on and keep charging on no matter what.
Yes.
Doesn't matter what happens, you're
Yes.
just going to charge on.
That's right.
So we've gone back to 92. Now we're moving through. What was next? Was that when you got the RX3?
No. So I in my teenage years, I lived in Hamilton here, and so we traded up into various different rotors and sold the RX2 and got an RX3 sedan and sold that, got an RX4 coupe. All of these I either bought off the side of the road or out of the newspaper.
What about the old trade and exchange?
Yep, trade and exchange. That was a little bit later,
Yeah.
so that would come out on a Thursday.
How good was that?
Yeah.
You know, what is it, 6 a.m., 7 a.m. on a Thursday?
Yeah.
By like morning break, you're like
Yeah.
reading it, and then you've lined up to meet at Bombay Hills.
Yes.
Someone doing a deal on the Bombay Hills with
Yeah.
all the Auckland boys. Yeah.
Well, I remember it used to come out in Auckland early in the mornings, but on a Thursday it would be lunchtime in Hamilton.
Yeah,
So
okay.
lunch break at work, we'd head down to the service station and grab
Yeah,
a copy
yeah,
of that and the Auto Trader, which both came out on the same day.
Oh, yeah.
What
Auto Trader had pictures.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you'd have to hustle if there's a good deal.
Because everyone's on the move.
Everyone's on the move.
Yeah.
And this is well before internet.
All the Kiwis would know exactly what we're talking about with the trade and exchange.
Yeah. It was the Bible.
Cheap to advertise too, eh?
Yeah. And also down in Hamilton, we had one called the Loot.
Oh, I have heard of it. Yep.
So it was kind of like a trade and exchange, but in the Waikato here, they would advertise in the Loot. So that's where you'd find the cheap Mazdas, and you'd have to be quick. And
also the parts, eh? Lots of good parts.
Yeah. So lots of Mazdas in those early years in the 90s, and racing around the streets here in Hamilton. But there wasn't, even as the years went on, they got a little bit more expensive, but you were never sort of paying more than $3,000 for a Mazda.
Which back then, was fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still
Yep.
a lot of money back then for someone who's younger, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Then I ended up with this. Had heaps of Mazdas, RX3 coupes, and 12.0 turbos, and I ended up with this RX2 sedan, which bought off a mate, had no engine, and so I chucked a 13B in it and had heaps of fun in it.
Late 90s now, are we?
Yeah, we're in the late 90s.
Yeah.
And a mate of mine had this RX3 coupe. He was a panel beater, and he had this RX3 coupe that he had started fixing up, and he'd started putting new panels on it, new rear quarters and sills. It was
Rusted out.
It was a pretty rusty car, but it got all these new old stock panels. So he'd done all the hard work on it: sills, rear quarters, new roof skin. Everything on it was new. Boot lid, tail light panel. It was phenomenal how many new panels are on this car. And he wanted to quit it, as he'd sort of, it was a big project and he had enough, and he wanted this RX2 4-door I had.
Oh, yeah.
So I said, well, look, mate, I'll take the 13B out of that RX2 and let's just straight swap. And so we did a handshake, and I gave him this RX2 4-door, and he gave me this RX3 coupe.
And it's a 10A, like early model coupe?
No, it was a 74.
74,
So this
okay.
is the car that became UWANIT.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
This
So,
is where it all started.
Yeah. So there was a lot of rotors before that, but the deal.
You wanted, started then. Yeah.
So we swapped an RX2 for that car, and it was a big project. I sort of had to pause for a little bit and go, what am I doing here? Do I just do I paint this thing and chuck it together? And then one night we were having a few beers with a few mates, and
as you do.
I was only 18 at this stage, right? And so I'd had 3 years of owning heaps of Mazdas and racing the streets in Hamilton, and we're having a few beers, and I said to my mates, they were, what are you going to do with this car? I was like, what I'm going to do? I'm going to build the best RX3 in New Zealand.
At 18 years old,
18.
yeah,
and,
you're full of it, man.
And it was this big joke, and they were like, and I still haven't lived it down to this day. And mate, he said, I'll bet you a box of piss that that'll never happen.
Man, did you prove him wrong?
And it took me a long time, and it took a lot of money, but we did it.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of how that car came about, and you know, swapping for other cars, and you know, I had a vision in my head for it, and
and then you delivered. Like, I know a lot of people watching the Kiwis would have remembered that car up on its side, and the display area at that dirt floor. Cleveland, was it? Cleveland, yeah. And you had mirrors underneath it. Yeah. And like I said earlier, it's something that you'd expect to see in today's car show scene, not 2000, right?
Yes.
Year 2000?
Year 2000, So it took me 5 years to build it, to get it to that point. So that was sort of 95, 96 when I first got it.
You went hard, all right.
Yeah. So, but you know, I was a, you know, in those early days, I was a tyre fitter.
Yeah.
That was my job, and I had a salary of $18,500 a year, and I built that car, and that car cost me $100,000 to build, and I actually don't know how I did it.
It's probably $500,000 these days.
But, on that salary, and so we got it done, and the rest is history. So
yeah, man. And then so tell us about the spreads that you had in the magazines. Like we all know the poster in the center of Performance Car.
Yes.
But how did that all come about?
Well, I turned up at again. This is before the internet. I turned up at the Foreign Rotary Nationals in 2000, and I'd finished this car. Nobody had seen it because you know you couldn't post pictures online, and there was no camera phones or anything like that. So I turned up with this car and chucked it up on the blocks, and everyone was just mind blowing. You know, it had 17-inch Simmons on it, which kind of wasn't really the done thing back then. And
13s and that back then, yeah.
You know, polished engine, and the undercarriage was painted, and there was chrome everywhere.
Yeah, there's chrome everywhere. I remember there's chrome everywhere.
The thing was blinging out, and people were just blown away. Which sort of overwhelmed me a bit because you know, I'd been building it for so long. It was sort of, you know, when you work on something, you see something every day.
You see it differently, eh?
Yeah,
you look at it differently, I know
so people saw it for the first time, and they were like, "Holy shit, man! Yeah, this is something I've never seen before." And
at that time, like 2000, 2001, I'd say that was like the pinnacle of the Rotary scene. Like that's when everyone, like the Nats were pumping, the drags were pumping. It was easy to get into, like a lot of trouble happening and stuff like that, right?
Yeah,
you'd say it kind of built up through the 90s and then.
Yeah, 2000 to probably 2005 was where its heyday.
Yeah, for sure, I agree with that.
Prior to that, you know, the Rotary Nationals were in Taupo, and they were run and owned by the Rotary Mazda Rotary Enthusiast Club back then.
Yeah.
And for anyone that's sort of pre-2000 or pre-99, the Nationals and Taupo were also a massive event.
Yeah.
And you know, there was a sort of a park area in Taupo that they would have a show and shine, and you know, that was kind of my era of growing up and in my teenage years going to that event. But yeah, when they sold the event and then it moved to Green Lane.
And Mary
Mary for the drags, and it just got massive.
Because Green Lane's a really good exhibition centre, eh?
Yeah.
You know, and then the drags at Mary, like the camping and the stuff that used to go on in the campground and the parking lot, like the fires and the burnouts on the grass, and you know, there was all sorts of stuff going on. It was just, I just remember one year the roadblocks that Mary would cause back from Hamilton all the way back to Hamilton, all the way back to Auckland.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, and you'd just be stuck in traffic.
It would make the newspapers because, you know, it would gridlock the motorway.
Yeah, people couldn't make it. They'd have to turn around and go back, home.
Yeah, so it was huge. And, you know, the show, the drags were huge, and, you know, the crowds that it would attract. And
the bank.
Yeah. But also the show, you know, the hype and the atmosphere, the quality of the cars back then.
There was a lot of unknown because, like you said, there was no internet build-up. Right, it was just, who's going to be there this year? What's going to happen? You know, and then just out of the woodwork, boom.
Yeah. You know? The attention to detail on cars back then, not just mine, but there's a lot of massive builds that came out back then.
Yeah.
Jason Parry, he was another one that you know, but even before my time, that was you know, just doing some phenomenal stuff in terms of detail and workmanship. So yeah, there was some cool stuff that was happening back then for sure.
So back to UWANIT there and the performance car spread. So you turned up to the 2000 Nats.
Yes.
Yeah, 2000 Nats. You put it up on the blocks. You had the mirrors. Everybody remembers that. That's in New Zealand. Then what happened?
So the guys from Fast Fours and Rotaries, which is the Australian magazine, were over. And they were over to see the event, but they'd also committed to Jason Parry that they were going to shoot his car, and that was going to be on the cover, which they did. They saw my car. They came up to me and said, "We've got to shoot this thing while we're here." So the day after the show, we did a full photo shoot on the car in Newmarket in Auckland, and which was pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. For 20, how old are you?
I was 22.
22, yeah.
Yep.
That's crazy,
So that came out in, I think, the February 2001 edition of Fast Fours and Rotaries. The January issue, there was a picture of the engine, and you opened the cover on the issue that Jason Parry's car was in, and there was a photo of the engine, and then the next issue there was a full spread on the car.
Oh yeah, and that's where the poster was.
Yeah, and there was a poster, and
double pager.
And I didn't realise there was going to be a poster, but I think that poster for a lot of people come and talk to me now. Guys that bought that magazine and saw the car back in the day, and they said, "Man, I remember seeing this car for the first time.
Yeah,
I had the poster on my wall, and this is the car that this is the car that got me into RX3s or Rotaries. This is my memory.
Yeah,
this.
It was so far ahead of its time, but it came out at the exact right time, the start of when the Rotaries were at their pinnacle, like that. And like I sometimes see guys doing videos in their garage and stuff, and I can see the poster in the background. Yeah, it's all ratted up and ripped, and it's like it's been there for 24 years.
So it's pretty cool. You don't sort of think about these things until I talk to someone like you and you realise how long ago that was. And I have obviously I've still got rotor rigs now, and we'll talk about those. But I have guys come up to me at car shows now and say to me, "Hey man, I met you at 2001 at Green Lane or wherever it was, and I was 14." And they say to me, I was a 14-year-old, and I talked to you about your RX3, and now this is what I've got. Now I've got an RX3 or RX2 or whatever it was.
You just laid the bug, right? Like it's, man, I'd admit it influenced me. Like that was right around when I was getting into them as well, maybe just a couple of years before that, but it's perfect timing, right?
Yeah.
So just quickly before we wrap up about UWANIT there. So what happened next? You sold it, and then you regretted selling it?
Yeah.
Because we talked about this last time, so I got to ask him about that.
Yeah, so I had a bit of a brain explosion, and well, you just go through phases in life where there's change, and we up until that point I'd spent all my money building this car, and then I got married, and then we had kids, and the RX3 just sort of sat in I'd stopped showing it, and it sat in the garage, and I didn't need to sell it, but I wasn't using it, and so I was like, I'll just sell this thing. And so I chucked it up for sale, and like I said, I spent $100,000 building that thing, which was ridiculous money back then, and I struggled to sell it because I wanted a lot of money for it, and
absolutely.
So I think I sold it for $40,000.
NZD?
Yeah. So that was in was in 2006.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a lot later than that.
Nah, 2006 I sold it. So it was when my first son was born. And I instantly regretted that.
Yeah.
I didn't need to sell it because I didn't need the money, but it's just one of those things you do, and so yeah, that was
because you weren't using it. That's probably
no. And then so I regretted it, but it changed a couple of hands in New Zealand. I sold it to a guy in Auckland, and he sold it to a guy in Wellington. Anyway, the guy in Wellington actually got in contact with me and said, "Hey, I'm probably going to sell this car. Do you want it back?"
Oh yeah.
And I'd gone through this phase where I regretted selling it, but then I'd moved on. And so anyway, I went to Wellington, had a look at it. Me and my wife Tiffany went down there, had a look at it, and it kind of had deteriorated a bit. And I was like, he's like, "Man, you can have it for $35,000 or something." And I was like, nah. It had, I was,
This isn't the end, eh?
yeah. And I walked away from it.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I walked away from it, and then years later, I obviously regretted it.
The career came back.
So the car is in Aussie now. It's been in Melbourne for probably, I don't know, 10 or 12 years.
Yeah, okay, so the same guys owned it.
Yeah, the guy that bought it from the guy in Wellington, he got in contact with me, and we've stayed in touch. And I've been over there, and I've tried to buy it off him, but he's not keen on letting it go. So I understand that. I've had a couple of goes at buying it, but
and then importing it back here.
Yeah.
You don't give up, man.
So but he's made it clear it's not for sale at the moment, and that's fine.
But he knows who's going to get it when he wants to sell it.
Yeah, hopefully he'll pick up the phone and call me. But I did get the chance to drive it when I went over there a few years ago.
Oh yeah,
and still has the same tyres I put on it.
Oh shit!
In the year 2000.
So the guys didn't drive it really much.
Nah, it's untouched, so it's still exactly the same as how I built it 24 years ago. Same tyres, same everything.
Yeah.
It obviously it's going to need a going through, and it's preserved.
Yeah.
It's
been inside.
Yeah, and I look at some of the things when I went and saw it. It's probably 4 or 5 years ago I went and saw it, and I look at some of the things I did on it, and I'm like, wouldn't do that again. But it was the era.
It was the era, you know,
like the interior and the, but yeah, it was at the time it was cool, and like a lot of the inspiration I got for that car was a lot of the cars that had come before that, like Bad RX in particular, Mean 3, which are iconic cars in New Zealand. The smooth firewalls, the smoothed out rotor housings, polished rotor housings. That was. There's
also painted front and rear bumpers and squiggles down the side.
That's right. So there was stuff that I sort of picked out of all those cool cars that had come before UWANIT, and a lot of those ideas I put into that car.
Just build it how you want it, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that's exactly
it. So anyway, it's
well, we're all wishing Tim good luck to get the car back.
Well, you never know. You never know.
Watch this space.
Well, I've built another one now, so.
So you're still building Mazdas and stuff. Like, who's doing your engine building? Like, who's helping you with all that?
A couple of guys. So Willie Green and
Willie Green. We deal with Willie a little bit.
Yeah, he's built a few engines for me over the years, and he built the PP that's in my current RX3 coupe that we've finished not that long ago. Great to work with, and I've got a real particular way that I like stuff done in terms of the detail. So you trust guys that when they do work for you, and
you find a good guy.
You find the good guys, and you keep working with them. And Willie's been one of those guys who's really helped me out with a lot of stuff. Engines, gearboxes, diffs. He's done so much for me.
What's his company's name?
Willie just does it from home, sort of after hours.
Yeah. We've sent some stuff to Willie Green, but just never knew that if he had a company name or not.
Yeah. So he's
shout out to Willie Green.
Yeah. He's the man, especially with PPs. I'm just building a engine for a RX3 4-door that we've got at the moment, which is a 12A turbo. And Mark Haynes is doing that engine for me. Mark's Revolution Engine Services out of Morrinsville. Mark's been around rotors for a long time. Does a lot of tuning.
And what is that? Is that like an RX7 Series 3 12A turbo, or is it? Oh, so it's an original orange top hat and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's a well, originally we set out to build it as just to keep that orange top hat.
Yeah, because that's
chuck it in.
That's how you know.
I love that little engine that came in the Series 3 and the Cosmo with the orange hat.
The HB.
Yep.
Cosmo,
And I had that engine in one of my RX3s many years ago. So originally I was just going to chuck it in and keep that orange top hat because I just love that look. But you just can't get much power out of them.
No.
So we quickly established that was probably not going to work. And so we've had to bin all that. You sold me a tall port centre plate for it.
Oh, that's where it's going.
And so we're going to... Yeah, it's still going to be a 12A turbo, but we're just going to run a different induction setup on it now.
It's interesting with those 12A turbos. Like the North American market got the GSLSE.
Yes.
the 13B injected engine.
Yes.
In the Series 3.
Yes.
They are the same big 4x114 wheels, everything. Just I don't know why the Mazda did it. I don't know why they supplied a 13B 13B injected to the States, but a 12A turbo to New Zealand and Australia.
Don't
Bit
know.
weird. But well, shout out to those engine builders that are helping you along. And you guys, you've done a few rotisserie builds with the paint.
Yep.
Who's doing your painting and bodywork?
Yeah, a few guys. So Cole Waters out at CW Auto Body
Yeah,
in Tauramutu, which is just south of Hamilton here. Cole's done heaps of work for me. He's just an absolute magician. If you jump on his Instagram page or Facebook page, CW Auto Body, this guy, it's just phenomenal. Like the talent with his metalwork, there's nothing he can't make.
Yeah, guys like that, really good with their hands.
You know, some of the rustiest Mazdas I've ever seen go through his shop.
He's probably passionate about Mazdas too, so it makes it easier, right?
He's a rotor guy,
Yeah.
and but he does all sorts. Like I know he's got a Porsche out there at the moment that he's doing. Just works from home, you know, at his pace, and he doesn't rush things. But
it's tough work, man. It's hard work, and it's time consuming, and it's just getting expensive bodywork.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so Cole's done a couple of cars for me. And just bits and pieces that body work that I need doing, and then paint. Actually, the car, the coupe that we've just finished was already painted when I got it.
That's the blue
car. Yeah. Yep. So that was a couple of guys that started that car, and I inherited it.
You happy with the paint on that?
Yeah, it's a phenomenal paint job. Yeah, but we did repaint the engine bay and underneath and inside the boot. And Winton out at Waipa Auto Painters again in Tauramutu. He has done that for me, and he also just painted the Mustang that I'm building at the moment as well. But we won't talk too much about that because this is a Mazda podcast.
Mustang could probably slide in there, but yeah. I just stick with guys that I've worked with for a long time, and they know I'm probably a real pain in their ass because I'm really fussy on things. Well,
but,
you're probably dealing with guys that have got a similar personality to you. That would help.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to being fussy, meticulous, and doing the job properly, these guys aren't cowboys. They're doing it how you want to do it, and that's why you've stuck with them. Yeah. And that's why you're shouting them out on this podcast.
Yeah. Probably the guys that I do the most work with in terms of fab work, Rocket in Hamilton. So they're a fab shop. They do all sorts of cars down there. Historically, mostly hot rod stuff, but doing a lot of JDM stuff now. They've got a couple of RX3 coupes in there at the moment. 20Bs and stuff.
20Bs just a normal engine these days.
Oh, it is, two rotors. Two rotors not normal when you pop a bonnet.
12A though.
The boys down at Rocket, Dan, Wingnut, Ants, have done heaps of work for me over the years on various different projects. The quality of their workmanship just next level. And fast, and they just know, they've worked with me on a few projects, so they know what I want. The level of detail, and so
probably proud to be helping you too with your cars because they know the extra length you go to build them, right? Yeah, like putting their name on it too,
Yep. Yeah, hopefully, it's I try and I don't just settle for that'll do, and it means they take a lot longer, but there's things we do twice because I want to get it right, and all those little things that add up to make the difference when the car's finished.
And there's a lot of people got Mazdas and nice Mazdas, but not a lot of people have got the attention to detail and the patience that you've got. Like a lot of people are like, I can't build a show car. I mean, they can afford to, they have the skills to, but they don't have the patience to do it.
Oh yeah, it's not for everybody, and
it's not for everybody,
and not everybody's into it.
No,
I also appreciate cars that aren't show cars that are still quality builds. It's just what you're into, this shit keeps me awake at night. I love building them in my head.
Bit of OCD going on.
I love working out all the detail, and you build these things 1,000 times in your head. And then you've got to get someone to help you do that, and you've got to translate what's in your head to get them to do that for you.
It's funny at the shop, you messaged us, I think, about oil metering pump lines.
Yep, right? That's right.
And you're like, they got to be white.
Yes.
my guys are like, what? And I'm like, it's for Tim Wood. They got to be white. Right? And it's like, they had the bucket of like maybe 20, 30, 50, I don't know, metering pumps on the ground and just sifting through trying to find some
get
black,
the good ones.
but they've been stained with oil for 30 years, right? I was laughing. So now when you message my shop manager there, Spencer, he says, Tim's message, we better get this right. You know, like that centre plate, we spec'd that out a bunch of times to make sure that it was good to go.
Yeah.
Cool. No, that's good. To shout out to the Kiwi boys there for helping you out and stuff like that. And one other thing I wanted to ask you, because I'm always hunting for certain products, but what are you using to polish your cars for the show? Like what products are you using?
I just use the chemical guys stuff.
Yeah.
But I've had all my cars polished, a couple of my cars polished recently. And
so you get the professional polisher to do it?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yep. So like my cars don't really get that dirty because I don't drive them in the rain but I just use the chemical guy stuff and
that's something you just get in New Zealand?
Yeah. Yep.
From REPU or Trade Super cheap autos.
Yeah.
Right.
A couple of my cars are painted underneath, and which makes them easy to clean. You can actually just get under there with a soapy rag and wipe them down, and so it's pretty easy to keep them clean underneath actually.
Yeah.
So
that's good. That's good to know. Yeah. And then you also you built a Series 1 recently.
Yes.
And I got to see that last time I come to see you 2 years ago, and you're about to enter it in a Concours show.
Yes.
That car looked like it was better than it from factory.
Yeah, it's
Did you head in as well? Did it?
Yeah, it did actually. And that was another thing that escalated because I can't help myself. I wanted a Series 1 and I wanted a white Series 1 GT, a JDM spec car. And
sunroof?
No, I didn't have a sunroof. It was a GT, so I didn't have a sunroof. Had the houndstooth seats, 79.
How good are they?
And it was a very original car, low Ks, and it was tidy, but the plan was just to give it a repaint, and it was going to be a car I could drive around in, and
just a repaint.
Yeah, just a repaint.
And
so we started pulling it apart, and then I was talking to Andy Duffin actually, who
Andy's a good.
Andy was going to paint it for me, and he said, mate, I don't know if we're doing this car justice, just giving it a repaint. Why don't we do a full rebuild on this thing? And so one thing led to another, and he worked in with another guy who's become a good friend of mine, Miles Hicks, who actually did majority of the restoration on. Andy painted it, and Miles did the restoration, and honestly, the thing came out better than showroom.
Yeah.
Like I was just blown away with how that car was finished. It was all original, nothing modified on it. And we took that car to the Concours show at Ellerslie in 2022.
Yes, that's just after I left.
Yep. And came second in the teams event. Mm-hmm. It was the second highest scoring car of the day. Got beaten by a Porsche by 5 points. 3 of those 5 points were age points because my car was newer than the Porsche.
Oh, yeah.
So it was very close to...
So they say it's easier to restore because it's newer? Is that what they're basing that on? Or?
Nah, a little bit, but the older the car is, the more age points you get.
Yeah,
so the Porsche was like a 60s and mine was a 70s car. So we were blown away that it kind of got judged to that level.
Because some of the big boys would come out for that event. Yeah, because it was just a Concours show.
Yep, so we're up against... so we had 2 RX-7s. It was teams events. You have to have 2 cars that are sort of from the same club or same manufacturer. Yep. So we had 2 RX-7s. We're up against Porsche, Mercedes, Mustang, all the heavy hitters. So we beat the Mustangs and beat the Mercedes. So that was really cool. And but I decided to sell that car because I just wanted to move on to a new project. Yep. So we sold that a few months ago. So that's in a collection now up at Hampton Downs, which is where the Mad Mike Summer Bash is.
What, just a personal collection?
Yeah, personal collection.
Of Mazdas or any?
Couple of Mazdas, some Datsuns. So a bit of everything.
Japanese likes the Japanese cars.
Yeah, he does, but I think there was a BMW in there as well.
So we get to see that.
Nah, it's in the it's at Hampton Downs, but it's in the lockups around where Mad Mike's workshop is there.
Gotcha.
So yeah, so it's gone into a collection, which is cool.
So
Yeah.
are you going to start regretting that one?
Oh, maybe one day. But that was a cool car. But
Yeah.
you kind of sometimes you got to move some stuff on so that you can start new projects. And yeah,
Yeah, I mean, and like some people don't get attached to cars, right?
Yeah.
You know, you don't seem like the kind of guy that gets attached to most of your cars. There's just
Yeah,
one in
there's-
particular, and
yeah, there's sentimental value with that one.
yeah,
obviously.
yeah, sentimental value. Yeah.
And because people see it as, the original UWANIT as I guess a bit of, I don't know, I don't really see it like this, but people sort of say it was a bit of a game changer in terms of, I guess its looks and how it was built. But I think there was many cars that came before it which also changed the game. You know, like I talk about RX and Mean 3 and Jason Perry's RX-7.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, everyone's got those that came before them.
Yes.
That, like, otherwise you wouldn't really have a vision if you didn't know what
Yeah.
what came before you. You know,
Yeah.
especially those '90s looks that you talk about. Like, every now and then you see a '90s Rotary cruising around New Zealand. Like, what it is? Mate of mine, a customer of ours, Kirk Oddie, shout out to Kirk there. He came over and visited us in Canada, and he's got that blue RX2 sedan with the squiggles down.
Yeah,
mate,
Painted
that is
numbers.
that's about as '90s as you get. I think he was talking to me about changing it. I was like, man, no,
Yeah.
keep it like that, because when the enthusiasts see that, like, yes, that's. I
Yeah, it was a
remember
cool
that.
car.
I
Yeah.
remember that back in the day. Like it's iconic. So what do you got now in your shed?
What we've got now is we've got a 73 RX3 coupe, the blue car, which is we've just finished, and that has that's just been featured on the cover of New Zealand Performance Car magazine.
Yes, I saw that.
And I see there's a poster book that's just come out, New Zealand Performance Car poster book, and there's a pull-out poster of that car in there as well.
There's
which
some
is
rolling shots of it too.
Yeah,
Yeah, that looks really good.
So that car. Do you want me to tell us the story about
Absolutely.
that car? Okay, so there's a bit of a story with that car. So I was about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I wanted another RX3. And so I set out on a mission to try and buy one. And at that time, they were starting to get really popular again.
Mm-hmm.
So they were a lot harder to buy. I thought I'd buy an RX3 coupe for 30 grand. Easy.
Yeah.
So I set out on this mission. Man, I was hunting down every car in New Zealand trying to buy it. It was just becoming impossible to buy one. And anyway, this blue RX3 coupe popped up on, it was either Trade Me or Facebook or somewhere down in the South Island. And it was a project, had a 13B and 5-speed in it. So I rang the guy. It's like, mate, I'm coming down. I'm getting on a plane, and I'll be there tomorrow. So I flew into Christchurch, hired a rental car. It was in Ashburton,
Oh yeah.
I'm going to say,
Yep.
or Timaru, one of those two. Anyway, got there, rolled up to this guy's workshop. This RX3 was parked in there, walked in, he's like, mate, I just sold it. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, sold it. Some guy rang,
Man, you must have
took,
steam coming out of your
took a
ears.
deposit over the phone, mate. I was like, man, you knew I was flying down. He said, yeah, sorry, mate, some guy in Auckland, 35 grand, it's done.
Mate, it sucks
So-
when you're dealing with people like
so,
that. It sucks. They try to stick to your word a little bit more. Eh?
Anyway, so I had a quick look at the car anyway while I was there, and drove back to Christchurch with my tail between
So
my
you would have
legs.
bought it.
Yeah. So anyway, things happen for a reason. I was still on a mission to buy an RX3 and was over in Sydney for work, and chucked up a wanted ad on the Oz Rotary forum page. And a guy got in contact and said, yeah, I got an RX3, got a couple actually. And so I was like, mate, can I come round while I'm in Sydney and have a look? So met this guy after work in suburban Sydney. Pops his garage door up, and there's these two RX3s in there, a
nice.
4-door and a blue 4-door automatic and a yellow coupe, both 10A cars. And he wanted to sell the 4-door automatic, which wasn't for me. It was a very original car, but he had that yellow coupe there, which I now own. And, within a nanosecond of looking at that car, I was just like, that's the car.
And it's got a 10A in it.
Had its original numbers matching 10A.
Oh man, that's
Low
a rare car.
miles, all its documents, service records, original ownership stuff. So like, I don't really want to sell that coupe, man. I want to sell this
Auto.
this auto 4-door.
Was that a 10A too?
Yeah, it was 10A.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I ended up buying that car. And,
The yellow one.
The yellow one
Yeah.
on the spot, and and I paid him I paid him, and I'll come back around to the story about the blue one because it's a long-winded story. But I paid him 50 grand for that yellow car.
And what year was this?
It's 10 years ago. Exactly 10 years ago, November. So I've just ticked over 10 years.
So I've seen the car, and I'd say that's a pretty fair price.
Yeah. So it's I paid him a deposit, went straight over the road to an ATM machine, got him some cash out, wrote a little receipt, so like a deal on a receipt, say how I'm buying this off you, here's some cash, and I flew back over and paid him the rest of the money, loaded it in a container and brought it back to New Zealand, and I've had that car 10 years, original 10A, numbers matching.
That's kind of a keeper, eh?
Yeah, it's a good car.
Yeah.
So anyway, last year, the year before last, a guy got in contact with me because he was needing some 10A carburetor parts, and I had a couple of spare 10A carbs, so I sent them to him. He needed to pull some bits off them, and I said, "Oh, what are they for?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm restoring this blue coupe for this guy, and putting a 10A in it." And I said, "Oh, send me a photo." So he sent me a photo, and I was like, "I know that car. That's the car I tried to buy
in Christchurch,
in the South Island."
Okay.
And so it had gone through a few hands up here in Auckland. A couple of guys had a go at restoring it, and it was all painted, and the panel work had been done, and it was just phenomenal. But they were putting it back to original car 10A, and I was like, how much does he want? He wants to sell it. So we talked a little bit about price. I was like, nah, dreaming. Anyway, I went and looked at it anyway. And,
in Auckland?
Yeah, in Auckland. It was out at Chopper's Auto Body.
Oh, yeah, Chopper, we
Chopper
stopped by to see him. Yeah. He's a good guy. Shout out to Chopper. He's a legend.
Chopper was doing, he'd done all the work on the panel work, and he was doing the final assembly on it. And anyway, I managed to do a deal on it, and I bought the car without the engine because I didn't want another original car because I've got one. I wanted to modify an RX-3. So
it was stock standard rolling body.
Yeah.
At this point,
Yep.
And it's a 73,
73. Yep. Bought the car, and that's the car now that we've just finished.
Yeah, the one that just it made performance car, and then it was at a show recently too, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it's done a couple of events. So Reunion, beginning of this year. Picked up Best RX3 there. And then it went to the Concours show at Ellerslie, and won the new modified class that they have there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so
that was just this year.
Just this year.
Yeah.
So it beat the next nearest car by 300 points. Cool car.
Yeah. So I saw you put up a poll there with the wheels.
Yeah.
And it came to like 49, 51% or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like, what do you probably don't know what you like out of those two?
I like them both, but
the gold does. I'm not a big fan of gold usually, but it looks good on.
It does.
That car.
So may end up back with the gold wheels on it. I think.
Yeah.
Really cool car. Probably in terms of build quality on this new one, far superior than the original UWANIT that I built.
Yeah, but at the time.
Yeah.
Like with what you had?
Yeah, at the time with what I had.
Which would had more effort put into it,
Yeah.
But,
you're right.
UWANIT was ahead of its time a long way.
And there wasn't the technology available back
No,
then.
that's what I mean, like the amount of struggles you would have had in that car.
So, and there wasn't the guys that could actually do the work back then. It was just wasn't the industry it is now. So this car was much easier to build. It drives better. It stops. Just the technology's better. Really pleased with how it's come out.
And you've got the UWANIT plates on the yellow coupe right now, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
So and I got two sets, so I run them on the blue coupe.
Oh, yeah.
I just haven't got around because the blue coupe's actually still on its original New Zealand black plates.
Oh, yeah.
That car was actually sold new in Hamilton, which is where we are now.
Oh, that's sweet.
And it's been most of its 70s and early 80s in Hamilton here. It had sort of some retro black sort of RX3 SP stripe down the door on it in the 70s and 80s. And then, it's been all around New Zealand, that car. But also it has its original ownership papers, all its original documents.
That's all
cool
sweet
stuff.
stuff. That all helps you in those Concours shows too, eh? You show all that stuff?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
so we're going to be heading around to Timmy's place to video those two cars, the 10A RX3 and the... so what's it running, the blue car?
13B PP.
13B
injected.
PP.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
And you've got a couple of FDs kicking around there too, don't you?
Yeah, we've got a 2002 Spirit R.
Yeah. That's
Type
a nice
A,
car. Yeah.
which is
it's a nice car.
the last of the RX-7s made. One of 1504. It's in the titanium grey colour.
Yeah.
The red Recaros.
I'm looking forward to seeing that car.
Yeah, unfortunately they can't get that car. They can't import that into the States yet because it's not 25 years old. So.
But you're going to?
Well, I'd like to keep it, but
yeah.
there's talk that when they can import them, there's going to be a high demand for them. But like the GDRs,
it's a right-hand drive.
It's a right-hand drive. Yep. Yeah. So they only made this car for the JDM market. The last of the ones made. This one of mine has only done 24,000 k's from new to one owner in Japan. Full service history.
And you imported it?
Yes. Yeah. Good mate of mine, Aidan Barrett. He imports cars from Japan.
Yes. We've chatted with Aidan a little bit, I believe.
And if anyone needs a JDM hero car out of Japan, he's your go-to guy. So he's jump on his Instagram and check him out.
It's hard to find reliable guys that can import cars these days because there's a lot of paperwork and a lot of loopholes to jump through and getting things right.
Yeah. I actually had two Spirit R's, both the same, but I've sold one of them to Andy Duffin. Good car that was low Ks as well.
Yeah.
And then Aidan bought this one for me at auction at the beginning of this year in Japan. So so that's I've just done a bit of work to that car because it was all stock when I got it, but they're quite boring stock.
Well, yeah.
We've put a cap back on it. We've put some coilovers in it and some really cool work wheels that are on it.
Yeah.
Slammed it down. Carbon
made
intake.
it less boring.
Yeah, it's a fun car now.
Yeah,
love
they're designed to be modified. It's crazy. I've just recently purchased an FD myself, and they just they're one of the only cars I've ever seen that could come out as a 2024 model. Yeah, with its shape. Yeah, and mine's a 92. Yes, that's the first one. Yeah, but like you could release it today, and it could fit in with today's curves and stuff like that. Like it's crazy, man. And then the body kits you can get for those cars. Phenomenal. Like I was just at 7 Stock there, and up on the YouTube channel we've got the video, but there's just a lineup of FDs, man, and they're just like 20B, 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 REMA, like it's just crazy to see. Yeah. So you've got the FDs and you got the RX3. So what's you're married? You got 2 kids.
Yes.
Yeah. So what are their favourite cars? Your wife, your kids. What cars do they like out of your collection?
Tiffany, my wife, she loves looking at the new blue RX3 that were built, but scares her. Driving in it. Yeah. So
is it loud?
It's pretty loud, and PPs they like to be at 10,000 RPM.
Absolutely.
So she's not that fond of when I take it for a cruise.
Give it a bit of jandle.
I'm on the limiter. And the boys, my 2 boys, my eldest son Max, he's already got his own FD.
Yeah, how old's he?
He's 19.
Oh, imagine owning an FD at 19.
So
how good is that?
He's actually not even 19 yet. He's not far away from 19.
Yeah.
So that's got a built. He had an RX-8, Series 2 and RS, and he's just traded that.
That's a good starter car.
Yeah. So his FD's got a built 13B Bridgeport single turbo version on it. With a Link ECU goes really well. So he's all about the FDs. And my young fella, he's just finished school, so he's got a little Golf R, but he's desperate for a Rotary. He's
just been bled
into it. He's got to get a job first so he can afford to pay for one.
It's hard to get the young fellas into the old school. Because the FD, it really is still new school. Like it's imagine turning up to school on an FD.
Well, back in and I run into some of my old schoolmates now who are Mazda guys, and just recently one of my mates said to me, he's like, "Man, you're the only guy that I ever remember that used to turn up to school in an RX3. Park it in the teacher's car park. We'd go out cruising in it at lunchtime. It's just unheard of these days.
And you had no problems getting a warrant on that PP and stuff like that?
The one I've just built?
Yeah.
No, well, the boys down at Rocket, Dan had all that car certified.
They do it all.
They do all the work to get it certed. So
noise. We've got some serious mufflers on it.
Yeah. It's PPs are a bit hard to shut up for the street.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You know, it is quiet, but for
you don't
PP,
take it off and put another one on. You've got to.
Nah.
So
it back. You know, it does choke it back, so you give up a bit of horsepower.
Yeah.
But
keep the boys in blue off your back, though.
Yeah, it's drivable and it's not too obnoxious, which is good. Because in New Zealand here, unlike the States and even Australia, every car here that's modified has to be certified.
Yep. Yeah. It's not easy.
So it's not easy. So, and then once you've got your certification, you've got to get a warrant of fitness every 6 months.
Yeah.
So
so the guys in Canada and the States, you guys are lucky.
Yeah. So it's a fairly rigorous process. Even the certification, right down to they're not happy with that washer, and you got to change that washer for a different washer. And
so the police stay off your back then. Typically, if you've got something like that that's nice, it looks like it's done properly, right? Like
yeah. Like I take a few of my cars out on a Sunday for a coffee cruise or whatever, and we're at the coffee shop a couple of weeks ago. The couple of cars, cop cars pulled up for their coffees and donuts, and they were just all over them, loving it, having a yarn.
They're probably rotor guys back in the day, or they've been around it. If they're the same age as us, they know exactly what they're looking at. A lot of the time.
I think the scene now, back in the 90s when we were roaring around the streets, we were causing trouble.
Yeah.
The rotor guys don't cause trouble on the streets these days.
No,
it's
not like that anymore.
The guys that are causing trouble out there are doing burnouts and Falcons and Holdens and
cheaper cars too that you can still afford. It used to be like put the old Kobe exhaust on it and take the springs out.
Yes. That's right. Yeah.
And no bumpers as well on some of these cars, and no bonnet or hood, whatever you want to call it there. And but I know Aussie and New Zealand is just stringent with the laws right now. It's crazy.
And I think the other thing is the price of Mazdas is escalated.
Yeah.
And so you just don't see them out that often anymore because
you got to have a couple of bucks in your pocket to be driving them over here.
You do.
It's a different world now.
Yep.
So I want to move on to a segment called This or That. This is like a little question thing for you, Tim.
Okay.
RX3 coupe, right? Taillights.
Yes.
If you had to pick, Savannah, teacups, normal 10A or the SP taillights, what's your favourite look?
Normal RX3, 10A RX3 with the candy red.
The candy red, yeah. That's a 10A RX3. It's hard to find those with the candy red still intact, eh?
Yeah, but to be honest, I love them all. I'm not that fond of the SP tail light.
Yeah.
But teacups, hexes, I've run them all. That's what's so cool about Japanese, when they made cars in the 70s, their attention to detail was some of that stuff.
Like, why would you make 4 different sets like that?
Yeah.
Because it's
different markets.
It's cool, though. It's cool. You don't see a lot of the SP tail lights over here.
No.
You don't even actually see a lot of teacups, really. The Aussies love their Savannahs, like the Hex, if you want to call them that.
Yeah. I remember when I originally built UWANIT, when I first debuted it had normal RX3 tail lights in it. And then the following year, I managed to get from Phil's Rotaries, I don't know how, but he got them from America, a set of Hex tail lights, which came in some American spec RX3s. And I remember when I took it to the next show in New Zealand, everyone's like, "Man, why'd you put those 808 tail lights in there?" Because no one had seen them. And but now they're pretty commonplace, the Hex lights.
Yeah, they are. And the Sydney guys have got them in every car.
Yeah, I love them. Don't get me wrong, they're cool. Yeah, but I'm a sucker for, and you actually see less RX3s with RX3 tail lights now.
That's right. Yeah. And then the same with the 808s, man. They made 4 or 5 different sets of 808 tail lights, and they're totally different looking to the RX3 tail lights. Yeah. Like, it's crazy why they did that and when they did that. Next one is, I think you already answered this one, but for the FD, full body kit or just plain spec, standard looking?
I'm plain spec guy. The body lines on a original FD are just phenomenal.
Yeah,
one of the best designed sports car in the world, in my view, in terms of its styling and shapes and curves.
So no body kit, just factory look.
Factory look,
but not performance.
No, rear wing.
Yeah,
bang on.
The actual factory rear wing.
Yep.
Yeah.
So particularly on a Series 8.
Yeah,
Series 8 in my view is kind of like they just got it right.
Yeah.
But nothing too over the top in terms of some side skirts, yes. But
not body kit.
No.
So I think a big thing that makes them look really nice that people don't quite notice as much is taking that door handle out of the door.
Oh yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
it just gives that side of the car just a
Yeah.
whole different look, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
And I think replacing the mirrors is a must. Like, I don't like the FD big hockey stick things coming off the side.
Yep. Yep.
And if you just do those, you know, those couple of things there and some 99 spec taillights, it's a good addition, right?
Yeah.
You know, but
Yeah.
people go hardcore with the body kits.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's so many kits for them, and some of the kits look great. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, just for me personally, I just like the stock lines.
So if you're going to pick between an RX3 and an FD, if you had to pick one, what are you going for? What's your
RX3.
favorite? RX3 all day. I can see that, yeah. But you've got you've got two FDs at your house and you got two RX3s, yeah.
3 RX3s.
3 RX. Oh, because you got that sedan,
Got
yeah.
the 4-door there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What stage is that in?
It's a running driving car. It's actually really nice condition.
Yeah.
And I just bought that one recently. A guy called me, and he's an old friend of mine that I was into Mustangs years ago, and I've got a Mustang now. But he bought some Mustang parts off me a long time ago, and I didn't even know he had an RX3. But he rang me up a couple of months ago and said, "Hey Tim," he was 65. This guy, he said, "Just get in touch. I'm just wondering if you can give me a hand to sell this RX3 because I know you're connected and
Give you a hand. What's your bank details?
And I said, "Oh, RX3." He said, "I said I didn't know you had an RX3." He goes, "Yeah, mate, I've had this thing for years." And I said, "Oh, tell me more." He goes, "Oh, it's a 4-door." And I sold the Series 1 RX-7 I had because I wanted to buy an RX-3 sedan. I wanted a 74 with 12A front, which is what I had when I was young. And he goes, "Yeah, it's a 74. It's got 12A front. It's all pretty original. It's got a little 12A tall port in it." And I was like, "Okay." I said, "Where is this car?" He's like, "Oh, it's just in Frankton, which is just down the road from where I work." I was like, "Oh, can I come now?" He said, "Yeah." So I rolled down there, and he pops the roller door up, and there's this 74 RX-3 sedan, 12A front. Still got plastic on the sun visors.
Oh, wow.
12A tall port, RX-3 4-speed in it. Had some little mini light wheels on it, and
Nice.
so I was like, "Mate, what do you want for this thing?" And we started talking about prices. "Oh, I think that's too much, mate." He goes, "No, I know what they're worth." And he kind of did.
Yeah. It's
So
not too much.
yeah. So I was like, "Yeah, I better have it." So we did a deal, and I drove it out of there, and so I had plans to we're going to put a 12. I was going to strip it and do a full build on it, but it's kind of too good to pull apart now.
Yeah.
So
okay.
we're building a 12A turbo for it. Got a new diff set up, new wheels to go on it. It's just got some
That'll
Simmons
be
on
cool
it
with the 12A turbo on it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Got a 12A turbo 5-speed for it. LSD, some Woolwood brakes. So we're trying to get that car done for reunion. In February next year.
Which is the biggest show probably at the moment, in New Zealand, 500-ish cars.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I have to try and make that.
yeah, you need to stay a bit longer. Yeah.
Well, I got 3 more really important questions
Okay,
for you.
all right.
They're really important. What's your favourite Mazda colour? Factory.
Earth green.
Yeah, that's a good one, eh?
Yeah.
It's earth. It's so good, man.
Yeah.
I even like it with the brown interior too. Like I don't know why, but
Yeah.
an RX-3 sedan in earth green just really looks
So,
the part, eh?
so that's the colour I'm going to paint this 4-door when I do eventually pull it
Oh,
apart.
nice.
Because when I was 16, my second Rotary was an earth green RX-3 4-door.
Yeah.
2 black racing stripes down it, and this car's going earth green.
I feel the sedans came out with earth green more than the others, eh?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Over in Canada they did too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was easy.
Yeah, this is probably an easy question, but your most regretful sale?
Yeah, definitely the original UWANIT.
You want it?
Yeah. Just had a brain explosion. And,
Yeah, it's but hey, it's still not over.
No, you never know. You never know. So we'll see.
You never know.
Yeah.
What about your top 5 Mazda production cars? What would they be?
Rotaries.
Rotaries.
Yeah. Oh, the RX-3.
Yeah.
For me is
Number one.
Some guys RX-2s. Everyone's into the RX-3 seems to be the that's the one that seems to be the one that everyone
in this
wants.
country for sure.
Yeah.
It was the most popular. Yeah.
Yeah. Probably the FD after that.
Yeah.
For me. And I'm probably an RX-4 coupe guy.
Yeah.
Over an RX-2.
You had a couple of those.
I've had a couple of those.
Yeah. A lot of detail on those, eh? Little intricate details.
Yeah, they're a love or hate RX-4s for people. I I love the front. They're aggressive.
Oh,
They are
just a little attention to
yeah.
detail they have.
They're pillarless
Trinkets,
doors.
yeah.
You know, the tail light panel. You know, I would. Yeah, I'm a
You
sucker
can make
for
them look
those.
angry.
You can, yeah. And they got a big engine bay.
Yeah.
You can fit
Big
a lot
car.
in them. They're
Yeah.
probably the nicest driving RX in terms
Yeah.
of the early RXs. They're bigger. They sit on the road nicer. So yeah, and then probably last would be the RX2 for me. I've had a few RX2s, but yeah, I'm still a big fan of them. But yeah, probably take an RX4.
So that's RX3, FD, RX4, RX2. Got one more.
Well, be the Series 3 RX7 12A turbo car.
That's a
which is
good
the-
choice to
which is,
finish it off.
Only came out in the JDM market. We didn't get it here in New Zealand or Australia. And I had one, which is another brain explosion I had in terms of regrets. I had a Series 3 12A turbo. It was a limited version, one of 200 made. Painted,
Silver?
paint-
Two-tone?
called Canal Blue.
Oh, okay.
Super rare car, had wind-up windows, whole lot of things deleted, no rear wiper, because it was this limited version.
Yeah. A lighter car, maybe.
Yeah, lighter.
Yeah.
It was made something to do with the race series they run in America. It was a JDM car. Anyway, another brain explosion, woke up, sold it.
Yeah.
And instant regret.
So,
yeah.
They look nice in two-tone sometimes. They come out like
They did come out in two-tone.
and a grey
yeah.
two-tone, eh?
Yeah, yeah. The two-tone ones had more of a sort of velour interior, whereas the limited version I had was a GT, which had sort of just the plain grey interior. So yeah.
So one last thing. Where do you think the New Zealand Rotary scene's going? And do you think it's going in a good direction? Like, what do you think the future is for it?
I think the future's still huge. You know, it's generational. You know, and it's interesting. People ask me this all the time. You know, what's happening with values? What's going to happen? Am I paying too much for this car? And look, it's hard to predict. You know, the market has come back a bit, but there's no way this scene is dying. If anything, it's as big. It's bigger than it's ever been. You know, guys my age now. You know, I'm in my late 40s. I had this stuff when I was a teenager. So you get to an age where you want those things that you had.
Yep.
And then you have money
absolutely.
to be able to get them.
Yeah.
And then you have a supply-demand issue. And that's what's driven, you know, the prices of these cars now. And the same thing happened with, you know, the Aussie guys will be familiar with this, the GT Falcons.
Oh, and man, they went out of control,
But it was generational. Overnight, guys got to that was the generation before us. They had those cars when they were teenagers, and they were buying them for the same value we were buying Mazdas for. And they got into their 40s and they're like, I got some money now, I want what I had. And then overnight they went from $100,000 cars to $500,000 cars.
Yeah. I know, it's crazy.
So I think the scene will continue to grow. You know, it's an industry now, the amount of reproduction parts that are being made. You know, guys like you that are supplying now worldwide. That's just going to make it easier and easier for guys to build them. The number of shops that are specialising just in Mazdas.
Yeah, they're doing well. There's a lot in New Zealand, eh? There's a lot just in this area.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
And these guys are busy, man. They got big builds on the go.
Yeah.
Guys are prepared to spend the money and build big dollar cars because, you know, that's what they want primarily, but also, you know, they're worth so much now they can actually afford to spend the money on them and build the quality cars. Yeah,
it's interesting. Like, I think a big driver also is the shows.
Yep.
Like, man, like when you got Chrome, Impulsive, Reunion, you know, you still got the North Island, South Island drags, Mad Mike's, you got all these different shows popping up where you don't need a warrant rego.
No.
Right? If you just take your car to a show once every couple of months, it's cool.
Yep.
2-day show, put the boys in, cruise around the track, and you're with a bunch of people that are, you don't have to be looking over your shoulder for the police, and
that's right.
You know, you can really enjoy it.
Yeah.
But it's funny you talk about the generation. Like on our Facebook page and our YouTube page and Instagram and stuff, you can see analytics of what age people are that are looking at your stuff.
Yeah.
And if male or female or whatever, and it's bang on. The most popular age is 45.
Yeah. Okay.
So and it's like 10 years either side of that.
Yes.
So it's 35 to 55.
Yeah.
But anyone under 25, no one's looking at our stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So it's going to get to a point where we're in our 80s, and it's just not going to be there anymore. You know, like one of my mates was telling me, well, just think about like MG cars or something like that that's ahead of our time.
Yes.
The boys that are into that are in their 60s and 70s,
Yeah.
but none of us are into that sort of stuff,
No.
right? None of us before that, so it's just going to fade its way out, but it's going to stay strong all the way through.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You know, vintage cars, how many vintage cars do you see on the road now?
Yeah.
Hardly. And guys aren't restoring them now
No.
because that generation's,
Yeah.
you know, dying.
But the thing is, like we're talking about, the guys that are into the Mazdas are right into them.
Oh, yeah.
There's no half-assing it around
Mate, it's
the Mazdas.
it's a cult following.
Yeah,
you know.
and in New Zealand and Australia, it's just crazy. But
Yeah, it is. Yep.
well, I think we'll wrap it up there, Tim. That was
Yeah.
really good, man.
Yeah.
It was really informative. I think the Kiwi boys definitely appreciate this one.
Yeah,
Eh?
no worries.
And we're going to head round to your house and we're going to video some of Tim's cars in upcoming episodes. So I'd just like to thank Tim Wood, a real pioneer of the New Zealand show scene.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Good chat.
Good.